Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video here on Auto Wisdom. Today we are sitting behind the wheel of a 2022 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. This is a very special, high performance focused Jeep Wrangler vehicle, and what really differentiates this car amongst many other Jeep Wrangler models is its powertrain, which features a 6.4 liter naturally aspirated Hemi V8 engine that is mated up to a ZF 8-speed automatic transmission. That is good for 470 horsepower and 470 pound-feet of torque, and that gets this 5,300 pound truck off the line from 0 to 60 in roughly 4.5 seconds. Now, in addition to its high performance figures, we also have a lot of really sweet off-road tech that makes this Jeep an absolute monster when it comes to hitting the trails, rock crawling, Baja, sandblasting, whatever you want to do. So let's go ahead and dive into a few of those technical details. So some of the off-road hardware includes a full-time 2-speed transfer case, electronic front and rear differential lockers, and aluminum Fox shocks that allow this Jeep to traverse all sorts of terrain with absolute ease and precision. We have electronically disconnectable sway bars, and with the Extreme Recon Package that this specific 392 Wrangler is equipped with, we also get 35-inch BF Goodrich K02 tires, a 1.5-inch factory lift, and we also have some 17-inch bead locking capable wheels. And in addition to that, there's a cool off-road plus mode, which I will go into a little bit more detail about during the off-road segment of this review. And the other cool thing is we get a really sweet quad exhaust with an active exhaust system that sounds the part. And a mean hood scoop in the front end of this thing that makes short work of any off-road obstacle, including water. A trio of tubes beyond the giant hood scoop divert water away from the intake, allowing for nearly 3 feet of water fording depth. So I think that's enough technical talk. Let's go ahead and drive this thing on the street and see how she do. Let's give her a quick pull. I think the first thing that I can say about this Jeep Wrangler is just how comical it is to drive something like this with such an insane high-performance V8 engine. That sounds insane. And I have it in manual mode, and it's got paddle shifters on it. What kind of Jeep has that? Why am I driving this thing like it's a sports car? I mean, it really doesn't handle all that well, but it sounds so nutty from the inside, and this active exhaust system is incredibly loud. And it just kind of goes back to the philosophy with the high performance Jeep segment and Dodge, you know, kind of Ram segment, the SRT guys collaborating with the Rubicon engineering team or whatever was in charge of the development of this vehicle, and then just kind of saying screw it, let's just stuff the fattest, most powerful naturally aspirated powertrain that we have into a Jeep and sell it to people. And with a growing shift towards EVs and hybrid electric powertrains, you really got to appreciate having such a high displacement V8 engine in this thing. Not only does it suit the exterior design and the rugged off-road looks of this car, the performance is spectacular. I mean, 4.5 seconds 0 to 60 time in this Jeep that weighs well over 5,000 pounds is a lot of performance. And you also get that lovely V8 engine sound, which is awesome. I mean, there's so much noise with that quad exhaust valve system from the factory. There's an active exhaust button that you can actually toggle for a quiet mode and a loud mode, but of course for this review we're going to keep it on the loud mode. Now, this engine does come at the expense of fuel economy, which is absolutely abysmal. I think right now we're averaging like 11 miles per gallon. This Jeep has the aerodynamic efficiency of a suburban tract home, honestly. It's really just like a brick on wheels in that sense. And then if you look at the underside of this thing, there are no aero panels or anything really to, you know, smoothen out airflow. It's really just all exposed, and the air is just kind of getting dispersed in a million different ways. she gets up and she goes. You gotta love that. The transmission is also impressive. This ZF8 shifts pretty damn quick. There's some delay with the paddle shifters, but for the vast majority of owners, you're not going to be driving this thing in manual mode, but it really does help to aid in efficiency and performance. Like, accelerating in this thing is really easy, and I think part of the reason why this Jeep has impressive acceleration numbers is because the transmission just blows through gears, as you could probably hear. What a fun car. Like, it puts a smile on your face, and it just makes you want to laugh. Like, this thing just brightens up your day. And it's so impractical and inefficient from an economic and financial standpoint. This is a very expensive vehicle, but I don't know, there's just something like hilariously awesome about this car. And again, just going back to the fact that these powertrains are disappearing and that we're not going to have V8s, we're going to move to hybrid and silent electric cars. This is so much fun. I also think that the resale value in the long run is going to be quite good on this thing. Not only do Jeep Wranglers, historically, they've had incredible resale, especially here in the United States, but given the fact that this one is a top trim with the Extreme Recon Package, the 392 model with that V8, I think the resale value on these things, especially going forward in the future, is going to be very, very high, just because of the exclusivity of the power plant and the factory off-road capabilities that this car boasts. In terms of suspension, these Fox shocks do a great job of providing a smooth and comfortable ride quality. Jeeps in the past that I've rode in always rode like dog shit, in my opinion. They were very rough and bumpy and just not comfortable at all. But this one is very plush. I mean, it reminds me a lot of a Ford Raptor in the sense that the suspension has so much compliance and plushness to it, and I'm really excited to see when we take this thing off-road how it feels in the dirt trails and just going over rocks and whatnot. One complaint that I do have is there is a fair amount of NVH, particularly wind noise, coming through the cabin of this thing. We do have this electrically retractable roof, and you know, because of a lot of the body panels in this thing are detachable, it's really loud, and there's a lot of wind noise that comes through the cabin. If you get this thing up to freeway speeds especially, it's whistling and humming, and there's a lot of noise. And part of that as well is due to the light bar that sits up top that obviously doesn't help with aerodynamics and really kind of creates more noise from the wind passing over this thing. But regardless, it's a very noisy cabin to be in. But that's just part of the Jeep experience, and the vast majority of owners that buy these things, they kind of expect that. I think that's enough street driving. Let's go ahead and take this thing off-road. So we have now moved over to some off-road terrain, and with this review I want to do a little bit of off-roading. It's not going to be anything super intense or crazy, but of course, this being a high-performance off-road focused Jeep Wrangler, I do want to demonstrate some of the vehicle's off-road capabilities. So let's go ahead and get started without further ado. Now, I do have the car in the off-road plus mode, which essentially just adjusts the throttle response It disables traction control, and with this 8-speed automatic, it'll basically adjust the shifting points for the vehicle, and it basically tells the car, in essence, hey, you're off-road, start behaving like an off-road car. It feels incredibly smooth over these pretty bumpy trails, and you have a lot of confidence and stability. The steering in particular is very light, and it's actually somewhat communicative. I can feel, a lot of what the terrain is telling me through the steering wheel of this car. And, just kind of cruising through this trail, it feels very supple. I don't even know if that's an appropriate term to use for a high-performance off-road truck, if you will, but it really does. It's quite comfortable. I love this trail in particular because of the way that the trees kind of canopy over the trail. You get a lot of shade, and it just gives a pretty cool aesthetic overall. Truthfully, I'm putting very little effort into driving this thing off-road. Here we have a little bit of a ditch, and the suspension just soaks up these bumps. Now we're going over a little bit of sand. Very, very uneven surfaces right here. Hopefully the audio is coming through nicely and my mic isn't breaking up. But the transfer case is in 4-high auto. The sway bars, front and rear, are connected at the moment. And the front and rear lockers are also disconnected at the moment. We'll give it a little bit of gas. So much power on tap with this engine. I mean, it could just really just plow through these trails. Oh man. Just such a monstrous power plant underneath this thing. And this terrain, you really need more intense trails and off-road terrain to really give this thing a run for its money, because this stuff is honestly light work. I'm literally just pressing the accelerator and just telling the car where I want to go with the steering wheel. That's literally all I'm doing. It requires absolutely no effort, which is awesome. We've got a decently sizable hill. It just soaks it up so comfortably. And with these BF Goodrich 35-inch K02 tires, there's a lot of grip, off-road. Even with traction control being completely off, I mean, that's actually beneficial in this environment. But, the four-wheel drive system working in combination with the power plant, that 6.4-liter V8 engine, it's very, very effortless. And here we have some really hefty terrain. Quite a bit of rocks, but just look at how smooth this thing goes. It's incredible. So much ground clearance with this truck. It's like, sometimes you even question, can this thing go over this type of terrain? But it does without any issues. I mean, I just can't emphasize how easy it is to just crawl up this terrain and not feel like I'm going to be running into any issues getting stuck or even losing losing grip at any point in time. It feels very stable, comfortable, and confidence inspiring. And that's the other thing too, the damper quality on this Jeep is pretty nice. Compared to Jeeps in the past that I've rode in, I always felt like they rode horribly. They were so stiff and jarring, and then you also combine that with an off-road trail and it just made it absolutely awful to drive through. But in this thing, so easy to power through this. I don't think it's really coming on camera how rough the terrain is, but maybe all the shakes in the camera, you can see the way that I'm just kind of swaying back and forth in my seat. It's pretty nutty to say the least. Well guys, that is the 2022 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon 392. Badass in every sense of the word and extremely capable from a performance standpoint and in terms of off-road capability. This thing is so much fun to take through trails. It has incredible rock crawling capabilities. And in terms of off-road, while it's not as plush and smooth going through like sand and sand washes at high speeds like in a Raptor with the Baja mode, it's still largely capable and it's so comfortable to drive in and ride in. Unfortunately, the downsides are that it's a little bit noisy, it has outrageously bad fuel economy, and it's a very expensive vehicle out of the box. But I think in terms of resale and just long-term depreciation, I don't see these cars like losing a tremendous amount of value, as I touched on. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you did, please make sure to support the channel by leaving a like and subscribing down below. Thank you all so much. I will catch you all in the next one. Take it easy. Bye-bye.